Hi, in this video I'm going to demonstrate how the Triton AP-DATA product is able to detect and differentiate between SSN and SIN numbers. What you're currently looking at is the Triton APX Management Console, and what you've probably also noticed is that all of our products fully integrate. This full integrate allows complete coverage across the kill chain. No other vendor can achieve this. For today's video, I'm primarily going to be in the data security module, and I'm currently on the dashboard. The dashboard provides health alert summaries, business value relative to data collection, and it also gives you a summary view of data loss prevention incidents as well as discovery incidents. So when we're talking about data loss prevention incidents, we're talking about data egress, so data trying to leave a host or the network. For today's demonstration purposes, I'll primarily be focusing on the endpoint. And for discovery incidents, we're talking about either using the DLP endpoint or our DSS crawler technology to scan server shares, hosts, cloud shares, databases for sensitive data and identifying that information where perhaps it should or should not be. Again, this is a summary view. To get more detailed information, you'd go under reporting and select either data loss prevention or discovery. It's going to automatically give you a listing of the last 8 recently accessed reports, but you also have the option to go into the report catalog and pick and choose other reports. All of these are predefined by the system. However, they're all completely customizable. So no matter what report, you can drag and drop or pick and choose different attributes or filters to completely customize that report to get the level of granularity you are looking for. For today's demonstration, I'm actually going to first clear out all of the existing incidents, just to start with a clean slate. I'm going to mark them as resolved and hit OK. And then when I pop back over to the dashboard, you're going to notice that the DLP incidents are now gone. So now I'm at my client. I'm running Windows 10 and I have the DLP endpoint agent installed. This endpoint agent is deployed in interactive mode. You can also deploy it via stealth mode. The main difference is visibility to the user. Interactive mode allows the user to see the status window, and it will also display any prompts or block messages. In stealth mode, this will not be visible, this icon would not be visible, and any blocking or prompts would not occur. It would all be invisible to the user. So as a first demonstration, I'm going to set up a Gmail message. And what I'm going to do is copy and paste a basic email message and click send. I'll do one more example and then I'll pop back over to my management console and show you what the system picked up on. The document I just attached has 5 SIN and 5 SSN numbers. It now is attached. As soon as I hit refresh on the dashboard, you're going to notice that this is now populated. It's going to show you the policy name, the number of incidents, and then the incidents by severity level. To get more detailed information, I'll pop over to incident reporting. As you can see, the second transaction was the actual attachment, and we were able to identify all 5 social security numbers and all 5 SIN numbers. Now, whenever there is an attachment involved in a DLP incident, we actually capture the actual attachment and it gets sent back to the Triton server for reporting and viewing purposes. So just to show you that there was no manipulation in that particular incident, I'm going to download the file and I'll give you a side-by-side view of what we captured and what the file had. So before I get there, I just want to cover a few things. This section here under the Forensics tab is simply that. That's the raw data that we captured. This data on the left is going to be the mask data, and the data up here gives you source, destination, and channel information. So source, if you integrate with AD, you'd have usernames here. You could also have groups. You can also import any custom users or computers. You can specify IP addresses. You can pretty get as flexible as you want here. The policy names, any policies were triggered, so if multiple policies were triggered for an incident like both of these cases, they'll be consolidated into one easily manageable incident. The specific channel, anytime it's an endpoint origination or leaving an endpoint channel, it's going to specify that as such as endpoint. If it were network email, it would say network email. And if it were any other network web channel like HTTP, it would just simply say HTTP. For a completely endpoint deployment, you're going to see most of this say endpoint. The destination, so I was at mail.google.com. The severity and action are dependent on whatever you put in place in your policy. You can classify the severity of any policy as low, medium, or high, and then you have multiple options for the action. Now, getting back to the attachment, I'm going to pop that up here. So whenever there's data collected here, it's going to be masked, and it'll give you the value of the number of incidents captured. Clicking on that, it'll pop up the actual values, and it just says you side by side. Social Security, or excuse me, those are SINs. As you can see here, they match up pretty well. Maybe not in the right order, but they match up. 589, 225, 297, 782, 122. And the same with Social Security numbers. We captured all 5. For the actual email message, that was just in text via an SSL connection. We captured the Social Security number and the SIN number. Now I'm going to do a quick example of a file transfer to Dropbox. So I have Dropbox connected here. I've copied that text file. I'm going to paste it into here, and then I'm going to pop back over to the management console. And as you can see, we captured the transaction, and we were able to identify and differentiate between the numbers. The thing with Dropbox, from what I've observed, is that it looks like it does a couple connections whenever you transfer files. So that's why you see 2 incidents here. But in both cases, we identified the numbers, and we also captured the actual file. The great thing about our endpoint agent is that it's port agnostic. It gets its claws down into the OS level, and pretty much any egress point, anytime we detect the data attempting to go out or transfer or print or copy paste, file access, whatever the case may be, whatever, however you build your policy out, we're going to detect it. So that was an example of transferring to a cloud device. I'll do the same thing to a network share. I'll just copy and paste it here. Pop back over to my management console, and again, you're going to see that we detected the SIN and SSN numbers. We captured the file. And then it also gives you the destination of where that file was trying to be copied to and by who. Another example, I'll just copy these SIN numbers and I'll simply put them into a Facebook post. Same thing is going to occur. The endpoint agent is going to pick up that transaction and it's going to be logged to the Triton manager. And we picked up all 5 SIN numbers. I'll go back there again. This time I'll just copy and paste all of them. And then I'll pop back over to my management console. And you're going to see that we picked up all 5 of each, and we were able to differentiate between the 2. So far I've showed you Facebook post, a Gmail post or a message, a transfer to a LAN share and a cloud share. What I haven't showed you yet was an OWA type setting. For that, I'm going to go ahead and pause briefly so I can log in here. Okay, so now I'm logged into my corporate OWA Outlook program, and I'm just going to do the same thing I did earlier. I'm going to copy and paste this message. I'll take it one step further, and I'll actually attach a file as well at the same time. Looks like I'm having some problems attaching a file, so I'll just send this out. Drop this down, click refresh, and you're going to see that it picked up the SIN number, and it also picked up on a PAPITA rule. So it detected an SIN near a name or a date of birth. So now that we're on the topic PAPITA, so our system comes preloaded with 1,700 rules, and those are encompassed under about 100 to 120 different DLP policies. And this allows for easy and quick deployment of our DLP product. And just so you can have a look here, so when you first set up the product, you can go under DLP policies, manage policies, and then click predefine policies like I just did. You can select the various industries that are relevant to your organization. For demonstration purposes, I've selected all of them. And then you can pick the regions where your organization might have a stake or an interest in. For demonstration purposes today, I've selected USA and Canada, but we cover several regions when it comes to regulatory and compliance for policies. Once you've done that, it's going to populate with the recommended regulatory and compliance rules that you should apply or at least view to consider when deploying the product. And again, we cover a pretty broad landscape when it comes to regulatory and compliance. A lot of the major and standard items, HIPAA, PCI, PI, PIPEDA, SOX, all the major items, and then some. What I didn't mention earlier, part of our DLP product is we have a pretty robust set of data theft risk indicator. So looking at behavioral indications that could lead to compromise or a disgruntled employee or an insider threat, someone that could, potentially be exfiltrating data. So you can add those as well. They are very effective and they give you some eye-opening evidence or intelligence on what your users are doing to give you that early indication or warning. So that's where you pick and choose the predefined policies. You also have the ability to create custom policies. Simply click on custom policy, and then you basically just go through the policy setup. Name it, you can select policy owners, hit next. The condition is where you add the content classifier, what you're looking for. Here there's many options. We have many patterns and phrases. This also includes regexes and dictionaries. But for the most part, we use a lot of algorithms, custom scripts, some proprietary detection capabilities, in addition to the standard dictionaries and those type items. File properties, you can filter based on the actual file type, file name, or file size. Fingerprinting and machine learning are two of my favorite items here. Fingerprinting is where you'll take a fingerprint of a file that might contain sensitive or proprietary information, and whenever we see that file leaving the organization, it's going to detect it 100% of the time. And I'll also add that not only does it detect it when the complete file is sent, if there's any manipulation or if there's sections removed and attempted to be sent out, we're also going to detect that looking at content similarity. Machine learning is, I wouldn't say similar, but it's close to fingerprinting. However, this is where the server or the DLP product actually learns what is important to your organization. So you'll provide the system with 50 positive examples of data that's important to you. We're going to dissect that down to the code level. We're going to look at metadata. We're going to apply all sorts of different analytics and algorithms to it, just to learn how data is constructed in your environment and learn what is important to your environment. And then you're also going to give it 25 examples of data that is similar to what you're targeting but a little bit different. And this enables the system to pick up and always have an idea of what is sensitive to your organization without having to constantly create more policies or do additional fingerprinting. It's pretty cool technologies. Once you add those attributes here, and I'll just set it up an example, I'll just add a magnetic track from a credit card. You can adjust threshold levels if you want this rule to trigger only after it hits 5 credit card numbers or whatever the case may be. You can add those here. Severity in action, this is where you can get into building some drip DLP policies, and it's also where you select the severity level as well as what action plan that you want to have executed when this particular incident is triggered. So for a DLP drip policy, you would count all matches and you'd select a certain time period, 5 minutes up to 7 days. For incident number 1, you might just do a low and then action plan audit only. And let's say After that one, 3 more matches, we'll change the medium, we'll do an audit and notify. So we're going to log it, and then we're going to notify whoever you decide that should be notified, whether it be the specific user or an administrator. And let's say after 5, we're going to put that as high, and then we're going to block that transaction. Hit next. The source, pretty self-explanatory. Most organizations integrate their AD infrastructure, but like I said earlier, you have the ability to add any custom or individual or unique IP addresses, computers, domains, custom users, whatever the case may be. By default, it's going to be all. Destination, this is where you get down to picking the channel that we're going to monitor the particular action on. So network email, endpoint email, and again, you can pick and choose specific addressees, destinations. You can prevent data going to specific country codes or domains. You have a lot of options here. You can pick the direction, inbound, outbound, internal. Web, same thing. By default, all the channels are selected. Mobile email, endpoint printing, so we're monitoring the printing channel. Endpoint applications is where you can get down into cut, copy, paste, and file access operations. Applications are grouped into application groups from browsers on down to portable devices. Endpoint removable media, so we're talking about USB devices. And then endpoint LAN, we're looking at data transferring to server shares. Once you hit finish, it's going to ask you to save and deploy to basically save that policy. Now I'm going to hop down into action plans and cover this real quick. So by default, the system comes with about 4 different action plans, and then you can create any additional action plans that you want to have. So depending on the number of policies and how granular you want to get, you could have quite a few action plans here. I'm going to pop open one of the system default action plans, and basically this is where you pick and choose the action based on the channel that communication is occurring. At the network level, a lot of them are going to be permit block, but for email it's going to be permit, drop attachments, quarantine, encrypt, permit and quarantine for mobile, and then FTP, HTTP are going to be permit and block. At the endpoint level, which is what we're focusing on today, you have a little bit more options. You have permit, block, and confirm. So permit, there's going to be nothing shown to the user. Block, the user is going to receive a block message that says it's violated policy and the transaction has been blocked. Now, what I mentioned earlier, there's 2 ways to deploy. One is interactive mode and one is stealth. If an endpoint is deployed in stealth mode, they're not going to see block or confirm. So everything's going to be invisible to the user. Same with application control. Removable media is where you can enforce encryption with the profile key that is embedded in the actual endpoint, and that's encrypted at AES-256. And then you can also do it with encrypt with the user's password or the standard permit block confirm. And the same with HTTP, LAN, and printing. The good thing about the confirm is that it pops up and it gives the user 4 different options of why or what they need to pick in order to proceed with the transaction. If they don't answer in enough time or they hit no, that transaction is automatically blocked. As I mentioned earlier, you have the ability to uncheck or check to include forensics. You can run remediation scripts for different DLP incidents, and this is basically scripting a VBS or a BAT file. You can get pretty extensive here depending on your coding skills. We are SIM agnostic, so as long as the SIM technology that you're using can accept syslog, it's going to work fine. And then email notifications that you can set up for each policy. You can also add your own custom notification groups. So if you have a policy where you want to log and block and notify the user, you can set it up as such through this action plan. Now, just as an example, and kind of going in reverse a little bit, I mentioned earlier about deploying in stealth or interactive mode. So I'm on a PC now where the endpoint agent is installed in stealth mode. As you can see, there's no icon. There is no indication that Websense is installed anywhere on the system. I'm going to take this credit card file and I'm going to try to transfer it to my LAN share. I will tell you, it's going to appear that the transfer does occur in some cases. Other cases, it just simply gets blocked. But as you can see here, I pasted it and nothing happened. Now I'm going to pop back over to my management console, hit refresh. You'll notice that PCI has now jumped onto the dashboard. I'll go into data loss prevention incidents, and we're going to see this exact incident that just occurred. So this was a file I attempted to transfer, credit card magnetic strips, tried to transfer to a data share, and it was blocked, and you did not see any indication that it was blocked here. That's because the endpoint was in stealth mode. Now, when it comes to DLP policies, oftentimes there's going to be need for having different weights or importance. So you can set up policy levels, and then within those policy levels you can add the different policies or rules you may have, and then assign it a particular level based on the sensitivity. So as an example, in my environment I have a monitoring only, I have a sensitive, and then I have a most sensitive. The most sensitive, this data is going to be blocked all the time. And that's how this hierarchy works. So if this data is detected and blocked, obviously it's not going to go any further. So it's a hierarchy of data loss prevention policies, and just adds that weight to the importance of it. So as an example, I'm going to go to my client real quick. I'm going to open up that patient data file, which is at a block all, and I'm going to attempt to print this out. Oh, let me double check the policy. Hold on one sec. Actually, I don't have the print channel monitored, so I'll do another example here. So the reason it wasn't blocked when I printed is because I'm not monitoring the print channel for this particular policy. As you can see here, I am monitoring it over the HTTPS channel or the web channel, and it has blocked that transaction. And just to give you more evidence there, I'm going to move over to my data loss prevention reporting. As you can see, the endpoint printing, this action was permitted. That's why it went out. And then when I attempted to upload it to Gmail, it was blocked. And that concludes today's quick demonstration, primarily targeting our SIN and SSN number detection. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.